al principio para que salgas tú. Y no sé si, Yasmine, no sé si lo quieres poner en full view el presentation.
¿En qué, perdón?
Como full view para que no se vea, para que no se vea.
Full view, ok. Ok. Bien.
Ya, Caro.
¿Ya estamos? Okay. Hello and welcome everybody to Week of Wellness. Today with us is going to be Yasmine Egozi, who's going to teach us a lot about CBDs. Before we start, I want to thank all of you for being part of Week of Wellness and for your help with to Flying High for Haiti and for the help with the school in Ilavash. I also want to thank the Rotary Club of Key Biscayne for helping us make this event possible. And now, in this session of Week of Wellness, Yasmine Egozi, as I said before, will talk about the basics of CBD. Yasmine is a soul-focused healing practitioner, an international certified stress management consultant, and a licensed mental health professional. Our session will be an hour long, and it is scheduled to end at 2 p.m. During the session, Yasmine, while Yasmine is presenting, if you have any questions, she would like us to raise her hand, and you will be able to ask your question at that moment. So now I'm going to place everybody on mute. This session is recorded and will be available to watch until March 8th. And now, Yasmine, welcome. Thank you for being with us today and for your time. And you can start.
Excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Carolina and everybody that's involved with Flying High for Haiti, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to always support a great cause. It's all about helping other people. So I really appreciate the opportunity to do that and to also share the knowledge that I've acquired on this amazing plant. And I'm super excited to be able to share it with all of you and answer whatever questions you may have. This is a very interesting industry. It's one that's growing very, very quickly. Just in the last couple of years, there's been an explosion, and there's going to be a continued explosion across the country, not just with CBD, but also with medical marijuana and recreational marijuana. So I'm super excited to be able to answer questions, and this is really where my heart is being able to help people so that they feel better, they get out of pain, they get to sleep more, they get to have less anxiety, PTSD, and all kinds of things that they're discovering now that are possible with this medicine. So I think what's most important is to start with the basics. There is something in our body called the endocannabinoid system, or the ECS, okay? This endocannabinoid system already exists in our body. So everybody has it. As you can see in this drawing, these are receptors, okay? These little dots are receptors that sit on the top of the cells in the endocannabinoid system, okay? And those receptors have been, and the endocannabinoid system itself has not been stimulated in the last 100 or so years. Why? Because we haven't had hemp CBD in our water or in our food and our soil for the last 100 years. Even though hemp was a very big crop back then. If you go back into history, you'll see that our Constitution was written on hemp paper. Henry Ford had a car that was made out of hemp that was stronger than steel. All reasons why this plant started to become less popular by the powers that be, because it was so powerful that it was actually healing people and changing the world. And at the time it was not, I guess we weren't ready for it. So back to the endocannabinoid system, you can see that these receptors are everywhere in the body. Okay. What happens is that when the body receives CBD or THC or any of the other cannabinoids that exist in the plant, the receptors open. Okay. So what happens is the endocannabinoids connect with the CB1 and the CB2 receptors. So if you look, your CB1 receptors are here in the brain, okay, and in the central nervous system. Okay. The CB2 receptors are found on the cells throughout the body's immune system. So right now we're talking about the brain and the central nervous system and the immune system. So those three things are basically what regulates the entire body, right? So if your immune system is weak, you get sick and you get all kinds of diseases. If your brain isn't open and active and stimulated, right, then you start to have all kinds of different memory issues and things like this that start to happen. And obviously the central nervous system is important because it's our nervous system, and we want that balance in our life. And that's the one thing that these receptors do, is they allow the body to create what we call homeostasis. Now, homeostasis is basically just a balance. It's a balance. So people that can't sleep, people that have anxiety, people that have PTSD, people that have stress, a million other things, that pain, that gets sick a lot, it is because of the CB1 and the CB2 receptors that aren't being stimulated, right? There's these external factors, like there could be, divorce or death, or, very high stress at work. But regardless, it's our responsibility to take care of our bodies. And in order to take care of our bodies, what we need is to be able to get the support. So some people get that through exercise, some people get that through nutrition, some people get it through meditation, some people get it through none of those things, right? Some people don't really take care of their bodies at all, or some people do all of those things. What I found personally, this was my experience, was that when I started taking CBD, and I tested it myself, like I'm a very show me kind of person, right? Like I'm not going to just believe something because you tell me. I'm a show me person. So I decided that I was going to basically use myself as a guinea pig, right? To test this product, all the products that I was being given for free, and also to see what my body did. So I always thought I was a person that did not have anxiety. But then I started taking CBD, and then I started to realize, oh, wait a second, I actually do have anxiety, but I only realized it after I balanced out, because I started to realize that I wasn't as short in my conversations. I wasn't as quick to respond to people because I was in a calmer, more balanced state. My nervous system had been calmed down and my brain was functioning better, but I didn't need to be I wasn't as stressed, I wasn't as uptight. Okay. That makes sense so far to everybody? Okay. Any questions so far? No? Okay. Now I'm somebody who about 15 years ago went through cervical cancer. I fortunately did not need to have any treatment, but I did know that my immune system was very, very, very taxed. Okay. So I was very young, so young that my doctor, my oncologist had said he was the youngest patient he had ever had. This was a long time ago, 15 years ago. This was before, this was right when HPV just started to become this well-known thing that causes cervical cancer. At the time, it wasn't being tested for, and there was all kinds of misunderstandings of this virus. But regardless of all of that, what is it that causes something like a cancer to grow in the body? It's basically cells, right, that go rogue. They start to take over. They start to take over the body, and they say, okay, we're going to have a party in the body, and we're going to start attacking the body. So the reason that happens is because of your immune system, and your immune system starts to get weakened. And it could be from your mind being in a negative state. It could be from your food. It could be from your environment. It could be from a natural thing. Maybe you were born with a weaker immune system. But regardless, you want to always be building the body, right? So far, we're talking about building the brain, building the central nervous system, right? And then building the immune system. Okay. Now, we all know, because of what's going on now in the world with COVID, and everybody being on this high alert of concern for their immune systems and getting sick, we actually know that we want to boost our immune systems. And some people do it with your typical vitamin C. Here's a little hint for people. If you have access to colostrum, there's a goat's milk colostrum, which is basically like mother's milk. That will build your immune system. So if you want to really build your immune system, between CBD and taking some goat's milk, colostrum, which comes in capsule or in a powder form, you'll really start to notice a big difference, especially in your gut. So why I'm bringing this up is because the brain, right, and the gut are connected. The gut is considered the second brain. Okay. If I don't know how much information everybody listens to and how much research they've done on the immune system, but you'll see that there's a very big thought process right now that the brain and the immune system are connected. So there's an access there. So if your immune system, which is primarily housed in your gut, okay, and your brain are strong, then you're not going to get sick as often. Okay. So far we've got CB1 receptors and we've got CB2 receptors, okay, which are here. Now, if you look here, there's been studies that have shown that CBD can strengthen and improve the mitochondria of the cells. Okay. So if you look here, you can see how the CB1 and the CB2 receptors, they kind of lay on top of each other. They're layered, right? But they're affecting different parts of the body, right? So going back, right? See, they're all layered on top. You've got the nervous system in the brain, and then you've got the immune system, and you've got these layers. Now, what happens is if it improves the mitochondria, it's improving the receptors. It's improving the conversation that's being had between the cells. Okay. So the more that you receive the medicine that's in this plant, the stronger your system is going to be. Is CBD or any of the other cannabinoids, is it the end all be all? Is it going to solve everything? I mean, obviously not. There's a place for everything. If you have a broken arm, you need to put it in a cast. You know, if you have things going on, you have to address them from the right place. But what I personally have found is that it gives me an incredibly strong base to be able to function from, and it's created this really nice balance in my life, what we call homeostasis. Okay. All right. So why can't I see this? Okay. Now, if you look, okay, there's an opportunity to, sorry, I don't know how to move this. Can you see this, or is it being blocked?
Are you talking about the page?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see it.
It's not being blocked?
No.
Oh, okay, perfect. Sorry, on my screen, it's I can't see it. So again, it regulates homeostasis and it repairs damaged cells. All right. So what happens when you create homeostasis and you repair damaged cells? You basically have a defense system in your body. Right. So you're able to fight things better. You're able to fight whatever diseases, what I call a dis-ease, right? In the body. So what is a disease? It's a dis-ease, D-I-S-ease. So it means that there is a lack of ease in the body, right? And that's typically why we start to have medical issues, whatever those medical issues may become. Okay. Does all of that make sense so far? Yeah. I can't see if there's any questions, so please let me know if there are.
I'm checking in the hands, so I will let you know as soon as we have a question.
Perfect. Okay. So what are some of the things that are regulated? For your body to function normally, you have to be able to what? You have to be able to eat. You have to be able to sleep, right? Anybody who has children knows how they feel when the first 3 years of life that there's no sleep in their lives, and how off balance you get, right? How much inflammation we have in the body from poor diet or from external environmental forces or even mental processes, okay? So the CB1, the endocannabinoid system, which contains the CB1 and the CB2 receptors, which sit on the surface of the cells, okay, regulate all of these things. So relaxation, feeding, sleep, inflammation, cognitive function. If you have all of that balanced, you're going to be in a more optimal state for your body. Now, there's a big misunderstanding that CBD makes you sleep. CBD doesn't put you to sleep. CBD relaxes you enough so that you can sleep. Okay. Now, I want you to pay attention to something that's very interesting. If you look, this is the brain, right? And this is the immune system. So this is your gut. This is where you have most of your primary organs except your heart and your lungs. Okay, so in your gut, you have your stomach, you have your pancreas, you have your spleen, you have your liver, and you have your gallbladder. Those are major organs. And that's all contained just in this little area right here. Okay, and you can see how down here, down the front of the body, there's receptors. So the vagus nerve, which is the nerve that regulates your fight or flight response, the response that you have. So I'm sure we've all experienced this, where you get really nervous and your stomach starts to hurt, or you get really nervous and you start to shake, right? That's this vagus nerve, okay, that creates that problem, okay, or that change. I shouldn't call it a problem because it's a protective thing that it's doing, but it creates that change in your body, right? If you've ever been scared, your heart starts to beat really fast, maybe your stomach hurts, same thing. So this nerve, called the vagus nerve, okay, innervates. It starts in the brain, just like all the nerves start in the brain and in the body. But this particular one goes right down the middle of the body, and then it splits here and it goes down the legs, down each leg. Okay, so a lot of times people have anxiety, and you can find somebody that has anxiety that has anxiety and eats a lot and gets heavy, or you might find somebody that has anxiety and doesn't eat at all and gets really, really skinny. Okay. What we're seeing, and I'm seeing this with people that I work with personally, because I do a lot of wellness consultations with people. And what I'm seeing personally with my clients is that when they get put on a CBD regimen, on a true regimen where somebody's taking this product continuously throughout the day and for a period of time, because this is a plant. This is not an Ambien. It's not an Advil. This is a naturally occurring plant. So it takes a little bit more time to take effect. Just like anything else that you take that's a natural thing, like a homeopathic medication, is going to respond very differently in your body than taking something that's a more typical over-the-counter type of thing. So what I'm finding is that because this nerve runs like this, people who go on a strict regimen, and it doesn't matter if you're doing it through whatever method of entry that you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're smoking it, because some people want to smoke CBD, and that's fine. You can smoke it. Some people want an oil or what's called a tincture that goes under the tongue. Some people take gummies or some other kind of edible, cookies or whatever might be in it, that goes into your stomach. Whichever way you're doing it, I'm finding that people who are heavy go back to balance, and same with people that are skinny, that they go back to balance, especially if they're on the extreme end of that process. So it's very interesting to watch people shift out of their anxiety, people shift out of their weight, people start to have less arguments with their spouses, with their children, things like this. So it's quite fascinating, actually. I also wanted to talk about the different methodologies that people receive the CBD. Okay, I don't know here what experience do people have with this medicine, and maybe you might have none, or you may have a lot, or you may have tried it and it didn't work. There's a lot of important things that need to be addressed considering this plant. Number one is that there really is still a lot of unknowns, right? Because it's so new, they're constantly doing research and they're constantly discovering new cannabinoids. So CBD stands for cannabidiol. Okay, that is just one of the over 100 cannabinoids that are in this plant. There's also something called CBG, which is cannabidiol, and CBG acts more like the stem cell of the plant. So CBG is more of a base. It helps with focus. It helps with energy in the mornings. I like to take it because it just puts you in a certain state. Okay. And because this, so if you think of CBG as the stem cell, and out of the CBG comes CBD and THC, and then all the other cannabinoids come out of it. And then, so it's very fascinating. And then also the method of the routes of entry, right? So like I was saying earlier, some people want gummies. So the gummies are great. They take longer to affect the body. So you eat one and it might take an hour for you to feel it, but it lasts longer because you have to digest it, and it just lasts longer in your body. Oils or tinctures, which you put under the tongue, typically you leave about 20 seconds so that it goes through the blood-brain barrier. Those products work faster. So somebody that has really bad panic attacks, anxiety attacks, that doesn't know how to judge so much their stress and when they're getting stressed and how they're getting stressed, and just suddenly starts to feel overwhelmed, the oil or the tincture works like that. It works really fast because you don't have to digest it through your stomach and your liver and all of that. So and then there's topicals, right? Well, they're smokable, obviously we know what that is. That's very quick as well. There's a lot of smokable flower now, CBD joints and CBD flowers that that people use for the same purpose. And then there's of course topicals, which are creams and salves that help to the body with pain and help the body with inflammation. There is not a day that goes by that somebody doesn't come into my clinic and complain about neck pain or knee pain or elbow pain or something. And, you know, we give them a gummy, give them a couple of different things to put on, and they walk out probably, if their pain is at a 9, they walk out at least at a 7 or a 6, which is pretty significant for somebody when they come in and they're not able to really move very well. And so everybody's different. That's the challenge as well. So if we go back here talking about the endocannabinoid system, right? Everybody's endocannabinoid system is different. So what does that mean? Let's say that we were 3 people in a room, 3 women that were my age, my height, my weight, my gender, my everything. We were almost exactly the same, but look different. Okay. Even if we were twins, what worked for me may not work for the next person, even if we have the same appearance as being the same, right? Why? Because your system is your system. Think about Advil, Tylenol, Aleve. Some people can take Advil, some people can take Tylenol, some people can take Aleve, right? Some people can't take any of it. It's the same thing. Same with blood pressure medication. Why do they have 5 different kinds of, or however many different kinds of blood pressure medications? Because and then they switch it. Oh, well, that's not working. We're going to try this one. Well, that's not working. We're going to try this one. So there's still this way of this trial and error that needs to happen. The difference is that with a plant such as what we're discussing today, you're not going to have the side effects you're going to have from some of these other medications that are out there. So I hope that makes sense as well in terms of the differences between people. Okay, this is very interesting. This is from the National Institutes of Health. They just recently started giving out grants, and somebody here at University of Miami just received a grant to do a research study from the National Institutes of Health on the endocannabinoid system and on the organs and how CBD affects the body. So there is going to be a lot of research that's going to continue to come out. There's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be a lot more push towards this medicine, both from the CBD side and the medical side from that perspective, and also from medicinal marijuana, as well as recreational, or what we call adult use marijuana, which means that you have to be 21 or older to engage. And I don't know if you all are aware of this, but New Jersey just became the 13th state to allow, they just passed, and they're now allowing medical marijuana there as well. They just, on Monday, they signed the bills into law to allow it. So there's a continuous growth and a continuous opportunity to heal from this plant. And I think it's really just a matter of getting people educated and taking the fear out of people. Unfortunately, this has been demonized for years and years and years. If you go back and look at the history, it was done by a gentleman who later became the head of what's now the DEA. At the time, it was called something else. And they decided, they kind of came together and they decided that because this plant was going to replace paper, replace steel, replace hay and food for animals, that they didn't want it in our system, in our global system. So it was removed from the market. And the way they did it was they said, they warned people and they said, be careful. There is a drug, right? That's where the reefer madness concept came in. They said, be careful, there's a drug out there that's called marijuana, and the black people are going to smoke it, are going to use it, and they're going to come in. It was coming from Mexico. They said it was coming in from Mexico, and they're going to come in and they're going to rape and pillage your wives, all the white women. So they created this fear around something that is not even realistic, because if anybody has ever engaged in any kind of use of marijuana or CBD, it doesn't do any of that. On the contrary, it makes you super chill, makes you laugh, makes you have a good time. It's a great stress relief. There is a lot of evidence about people now that are leaving alcohol. So alcohol sales have actually gone significantly down, as well as opioid use has gone significantly down ever in the last few years, ever since medical marijuana use has gone up and CBD use has gone up, because of the way it makes people feel. So it's a very interesting thing to watch. I don't know how much experience people have or how much research they're doing, but I have, on a daily basis, we're finding new information about things that are happening, and things are being discovered. Also, if you look back in time, if you go back into history and you go back and you start looking, you'll find that in the tombs, they've found things such as honey. They've found things such as cacao. They have found cannabis. They have found jewels, and lavender, and all these things that the Egyptians were buried with in their tombs, Cleopatra included, and it's because they were sacred, right? This was sacred medicine. This was the way that these people lived their lives, and they knew that there was a sacredness to it. They also recently discovered that the Israelites used cannabis for ceremony. So it's been years and years and years of ancestry that have done all of this. But again, what's the challenge? The challenge is breaking up people's mentality around this plant and what they call a quote unquote drug.
Yasmine,
yes.
Sorry for the interruption. I have a few questions that people have been writing in the chat.
Yes.
The first one is, does CBD help people with high blood pressure?
Yes, it does. It definitely does. So going back to this, right? So if you look, actually there are there are receptors in the heart. In the second chamber of the heart, there are receptors. There are these CB1 and CB2 receptors. But what would it be doing there, right? Why would these receptors be in your heart if it didn't help, right? So blood pressure often has a lot to do with stress. It has to do with inflammation and the body not being balanced, right? There's no homeostasis. So we're finding that, yes, it does help with blood pressure. Now, I'm saying that there could be concomitant things happening for people. So I like to really understand what's happening for the person, but typically it's overweight, stress, imbalance, and other types of stressors in the body. If you have somebody that's 50 pounds overweight and they have high blood pressure, I'm going to say, well, sure, take CBD, but lose some weight, right. Because it's not good for your body. So when I give you an answer, it's a very the answer is a general answer, but I'd like to work very specifically with each individual person, because you're not just a physical body. You're a physical body, you're an emotional body, you're a mental body, you're a spiritual body. And if we don't address what's going on within ourselves from every aspect of who we are, we're never going to really achieve maximum functioning and optimal function of the body. Everything helps. But again, if you're 50 pounds overweight, you're going to have cholesterol and high blood pressure. And if you don't lose that weight, CBD is not going to take that away. It's going to help.
It's very interesting what you just said, because I think that's what the whole week of wellness is about. We are covering different topics to provide that wholeness. And so, yes, I thank you for saying that. Yasmine, I have another question.
Sure.
Is CBD addictive?
No, not at all. The reason you get addicted to drugs, real drugs like cocaine, heroin, and meth, and these things, is because it affects the brain stem. Okay, and it attaches to the brain stem, and then it does something to the brain. There's no receptors in the brain stem.
Okay. Another one.
What it does do? What it does do is you will notice that if you go on a regimen and then you stop the regimen, your body will go from, let's say you're on a curve like this, and you want your optimal level is here, and you're here, right? And you want to go here, you'll notice that you'll go like this. And if you stop, you'll go like this. But that's no different than working out, right? And you want to build muscle. So and you want to lose weight. So how do you do that? You don't just go to the gym one day, lift weights once, and then go back a month later and lift weights again. Oh, I'm not building any muscle. Well, of course you're not building muscle because you're not using the muscle. So it's the same concept. You have to be on a regimen. You have to be disciplined, and you want to use something that helps that helps your body and shifts it, and then you want to maintain it. So same with losing weight. You're not going to lose weight by eating French fries and Coca-Cola. You're going to lose weight by, keeping your metabolism going, eating every 2 to 3 hours, exercising, and getting good nutrition in your body, and doing it over a 3, 4, 5, 6 month period. And then you're going to see that things are going to change. So it's the same concept.
Interesting. Does CBD needs to be prescribed by a doctor?
No, CBD is over the counter. The Farm Bill passed in 2018 that made CBD legal in the United States. There are a couple of states that they still don't allow CBD, but Florida is not one of them. I think it's like Mississippi and another one. It's not Florida. And it's over the counter as long as it contains 0.3% or less of CBD, 0.3% or less of THC, then it's considered a CBD product that is legal. Okay.
So you say that THC is the ingredient that makes it addictive then, or not necessarily?
No, it's not addictive. What it is the THC gives you the psychotropic effect. So what do I mean by that? It's the one that elevates your consciousness to a different point, right? So if you're consuming marijuana, right? Straight, full medical marijuana or recreational marijuana, depending on what state you're in. If you're consuming marijuana, it is going to shift your it's going to shift your experience, right? Of what you're on a day-to-day basis, so that it moves you out of whatever state of consciousness you're in, which is the psychotropic effect. But you can get a similar relief of pain, of anxiety, of depression without taking a lot. You can do like in other states where there's an adult use concept, you'll find that almost every product has a minimum of a 1% THC, because they're finding that you do need a little bit of THC to activate things a little bit better. Okay. That's why it's a 0.3, and they're looking at changing it to a 1%. But it's not enough to get you high, what they call high or elevated. Or psychotropic. It's enough to just shift enough where you're like, oh, and then you like feel better, like change it. It like elevates you a little bit. It doesn't get you blasted like what typical marijuana would do.
I have another question here. Does CBD increase appetite?
So it can. If you remember here, we were talking about the CB1 and the CB2 receptors, and we're talking about the vagus nerve that runs down the middle, like you see here on this chart, okay? That's the vagus nerve. So I don't know what's going on. Whoever asked this question, I don't know why they're specifically asking it. If it's for somebody that has something like cancer, that's more of a THC focused need. CBD works more on the nervous system, right? THC works more in the body. So when you combine them together, that's when you have real healing taking place. So yes, it can increase your appetite, especially if your appetite suppression is coming from depression or is coming from anxiety, because it calms down this nerve here, which is your vagus nerve that innervates through your heart, through your stomach, all the way down, and then goes down your legs. So it goes all the way through here, right? This is your heart. This is your stomach, and then it goes all the way down and it comes off down the legs this way. So yes, it can, for sure. Again, I have to know other things that might be going on with the person. If it's somebody that has all these other things going on, we might need to add different things or tweak it a little bit based on the needs of the person.
Okay. Another question, what secondary effects we should be aware of, if any?
I've never known anybody to have any secondary effects to CBD. The only thing I would caution or be mindful of is blood thinners. If you're taking blood thinners, you want to stay away from CBD because it interacts. But other than that, we've never seen any or know of any to date where there's secondary effects, other than feeling better, having more appetite, being more relaxed, being less stressed. So yeah, those are secondary effects, but they're positive secondary effects.
Right.
I'm assuming this person is asking for negative secondary effects. In this case, we're not really seeing any at all. It's pretty amazing. Now, there are some people that say they don't feel CBD. They've taken CBD and it did nothing for them. My answer to that is always, what did you take? Show me the bottle. Let me look at the ingredients and let me see how strong it was. There's so many products out there, and you can get a 300 milligram product or you can get a 1500 milligram product. And people don't know what's what. They don't know what they're taking. They're not educated. They don't understand anything. Oftentimes, I find that the people that say that, they either aren't taking enough, they're taking too low of a dose, or they aren't taking it frequently enough. So that's the other thing I do, is I help people understand how to regulate their system. So I do that very individually because I muscle test, I do kinesiology with people, and I muscle test them to see what they might be needing based on their specific body. Sometimes you need a little bit of an immune system booster. Sometimes you need a little bit of an anti-inflammatory with the CBD. So it just depends on, sometimes you need a little bit of sleep booster. So it just sort of depends on each person.
I have another comment here. It says, to be clear, 0.3% is okay to start.
To start what?
I'm not sure. This question was from Mappy. Mappy, would you be willing to unmute yourself and expand on your question? Okay, I don't think Mappy want. Oh, 1 minute. She's busy.
No. Yeah. Yeah, no, my question was if you want to, because you have some of the symptoms and you want to try it. I never explore in any pharmacy or wherever they say, where they send them. But it was, it's safe. I think a lot of people and myself the question is, even though it doesn't have secondary effects, what happened? I'm gonna go too much, too low. You just were explaining, no, this issue, but you mentioned 0.3%, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm. That is what I wanted to.
Okay,
to
so
confirm.
let me, I think I understand what you're asking. And if it's easier in Spanish, me lo puedes preguntar en español, que también hablo español, para aclarar. But basically, the only thing that will happen is if you take too much CBD is you'll fall asleep. Like the other night, I was really tired and I was like, I had a stressful week and I was like, I didn't want to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning like I do every weekend. And I was like, I just want to sleep, you know? And I took edibles and I took CBD edibles and I took like 150 milligrams, which is a lot of CBD as an edible because it takes time to hit you because you have to digest it and then it lasts all night. And I just slept so well. And then I was up at like 8:30 and then I was like, oh, I slept past 6:30, thank God, you know? And then I was up for 2 hours, like I'm going back to bed, and I went back to bed for another 3 hours. I was like, oh my God, how amazing I caught up on sleep. So those are the kind of effects you're going to have. And if I put people on a protocol, a regiment, and they get tired, I just back them off. Or if it's not enough, I add. You can always add, but you cannot take away. So I always start people lower and then I add, right? And as far as the 0.3%, that is the legal limit for THC under the Farm Bill. So almost every CBD product out there, unless it's a quote unquote T-free, which means THC-free product, is going to have a 0.3% of THC, but it's not enough to feel it.
Okay, was related to the THC. Okay. No, because I had some silly experience with my kids. For once, I had some chocolate.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Okay.
Then we had some gummies, and I said, "Oh, those are gummies. That's good." I had very weird experience, very talkative, and then yes, I fell asleep. And then the other one, I found some also like a cake, chocolate cake, around, and say, "What is he leaving this here?" I know he likes brownies. I had a bite, and it seems the concentration because I'm a chocolate lover, no? Yeah, so it's very helpful, the information you gave to us.
Good. I'm glad I can help. Yeah, it sounds like probably what happened is that you had something that was medicated, so it had THC in it. It was either homemade or it was bought at a dispensary, or in Florida we have medical marijuana treatment centers is what they call them, which is basically a dispensary where they dispense medical marijuana. And maybe they bought something, or maybe they brought it from another state, which you're not supposed to do, but people do it all the time. And you took something that had more marijuana than it did CBD, and but nothing. I mean, the worst thing that can happen. Some people, when you take too much like that, like you can have anxiety attacks, and I know people that think that they're gonna die. Like I'm gonna die, because you get like a very high anxiety from very high THC content. Yeah. But it sounds like you had a pretty good experience.
No, but very frightening experience. So yeah, I was telling them, "What are you taking this?" But knowing the science behind, it's more
Yeah, I think that's what happens is that we never learned about this in school. Nobody was taught anything having to do with marijuana, CBD, the endocannabinoid system, the receptors, because it wasn't known. I mean, it was Raphael Mechoulam, who was out of Israel, that was helpful in discovering all of this. So it's really very, very new. And that's why I think it's important to educate people, understand the science, because then it takes away the fear, because fear comes from lack of education, and there's nothing to be scared of. It's like being scared of rosemary, like you're not scared to eat rosemary. You're not scared to eat, any other type of plant. So why are you scared of this? Because it has some additional benefits? On the contrary. But again, do a little bit at a time. Like people are like, oh, I'm going to take something and I'm going to take like a big amount, 50 milligrams of an edible or 10 milligrams of an edible. I would never recommend that for anybody, unless they are a very, very, very high medicator, unless there's somebody that smokes all day, every day, they use a lot of marijuana already, then I'll say, okay, you can, your tolerance is higher, so you can take more. It's like somebody who drinks a lot, right? You drink a lot, you don't get drunk on one drink, right? You get drunk on 7 or whatever people's tolerance is, somebody like me, I have one drink, have one glass of wine and I'm like blasted, so it just depends on your body and what you need. But I think, like you said, knowing the science and having an understanding is very important, and it takes away that fear, for you, and know that you can always, and this is really important, you can always add to the product. You can't take away. So when somebody takes something, right, I say take a small amount and we'll start you here. And if it doesn't work, we can add. But if you take too much, you can't take it away. You can't remove it. You can't take it out of your body. Once it's in, it's in. So I always say to everybody, titrate. Start low and go slow. Low and slow. I'd rather you tell me, well, I'm not sure if it's working or not, or, rather than being like, oh, it was too much and I never want to touch it. Because that's not what you want.
Yasmine, I have Anna that has a question.
Sure.
Hi. So you mentioned that sometimes you can become sleepy. I wonder if there's a limit of milligrams that you can take so you can drive. So what are the regulations between taking CBD and driving?
So you're only going to be sleepy if you take something like 50 milligrams. So you can take 12 milligrams of CBD and be fine. If you're really sensitive, like some people are really, really, really sensitive, then you can take 3 milligrams, like for children, right? That I give CBD to children, autistic and ADD and things like that, 3 to 5 drops. And then for a week, and I let the parents tell me how the child is doing. Everybody's different. If you are a woman who's, 5'10" and 180 pounds, you're going to need something different than a woman who's 5'5" and 90, and 100 pounds, right? So it's hard to say what the dose is. Like you take an Advil and it says, oh, take X amount, whatever it says on the Advil bottle. But with this stuff, I would say take a little bit and then you can add. It's not going to put you to sleep the way you're thinking. You're thinking, I think I'm interpreting without knowing, but I think you're thinking about taking an Ambien, right? Or taking a sleeping pill. That's not what this is. You're just going to feel chill. You're going to be relaxed. If you take as much as what I'm saying that I took, you're going to be asleep. But that's okay. Go take it at night and go to sleep. But you're not going to feel like that weird, and you're not going to start sleepwalking. Like I remember I took Ambien for like a week because I wasn't sleeping. And the reason I stopped taking was because I woke up one morning and like my front door was open, my lights were on, I had been on my computer, my refrigerator was open, and I had woken up in the middle of the night and I was like, I don't know what was going on. And I was like, what happened last night? And I was like, okay, no more Ambien for me. And you're not going to have that experience with this. It doesn't do that to the system. You're just going to feel chill. Like after a massage, where you like want to go to sleep, which is a good feeling to have, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question here, Yasmine. Do you recommend CBD as a general supplement as taking a multivitamin, or should it be saved for when you have a specific issue to tackle?
So that's a great question. I recommend CBD as a supplement. It's an ingredient. So you can take CBD, you can get a CBD powder, right? And you can say, I'm going to add it to my water, or you can say, I'm going to add it to my shake, or I'm going to mix it into something, right? Into my cookies or into whatever you're making. To me, because CBD does all of these things we talked about, where it binds, the CBD binds to your CB1 and your CB2 receptors that are in your brain, your nervous system, and your immune system. Why wouldn't you take it? It helps repair damaged cells. It creates homeostasis, helps all of these inflammatory reactions and cognitive function. Why wouldn't you take it as a supplement? I take CBD every day. What I found was that when I stopped taking CBD, I didn't feel as good. So my pain started coming back, my sleep got worse, my anxiety, I was shorter with my staff, not because I was being mean, I just didn't feel as good. My anxiety was there, I wasn't sleeping as well, and so it doesn't create as much balance in your body. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay. I have another question here. Are hemp and CBD gummies the same?
So that's also a really good question. When you look at a label on a bottle, you want to look at what is in what it says the ingredients are. Typically, hemp and CBD can be considered the same, but hemp is really used more for an industrial language, and CBD is more for the extract. You get a hemp extract, and that's the CBD. Okay, so if you're going to, some people use them interchangeably, but if you look at the plant, the plant is CBD, hemp, let's call it whatever you want to call it, is basically the same as marijuana. What the difference is that when the plant is taller, so it's more mature, it goes what we call hot. Okay, and when hot means that it is above the legal limit. Okay, so when it goes hot, that's when it becomes marijuana. As long as it stays below the legal limit, then it's considered CBD. Right now in Florida, we have a huge hemp program, and there's people growing it all over the state. Lots of farms that are planting right now. The universities are doing research studies and involved with a lot of things. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
This question was from Maru. Maru, would you like to add to this, or did that answer your question? Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, those are all the questions I have in the chat. I don't know if anybody has another question for Yasmine. Yasmine, I have one. I mean, all these things you have been talking about, I think to me are fascinating, because I grew up in the stigma that marijuana was bad for you, period. There was nothing else to talk about. That was stay away from it, don't do it, and that's it. And now with the CBD and all these other supplements and things that are coming out, I find myself wanting to learn more about it. How would you recommend we go about that? What is the best way to start learning about all these different types of CBDs and everything?
That's a really good question. There isn't a lot of information out there. I've been doing this about 6 years, which in this industry is considered like ancient. And I had to teach myself everything. And I had to go travel the country, and I had to go to farms, and I had to go to processors, and I had to go to manufacturers, and I had to go to lectures. and even the lecture, sometimes the information would be wrong. It's really fascinating. My one thing that I suggest is that you go to somebody that you trust, that you know is a good source, and that's educated. Unfortunately, this is still an industry that has historically been a black market, right? And we're trying to get it into the white market, but right now it's gray, right? So we're in this kind of gray market. And that is creating a lot of misinformation. It's creating a lot of opportunistic people to come in and take advantage of others. I just met with somebody that is coming out with a product, and she was telling me something about the product she was using, and I asked her to look at her certificate of analysis, which, if you allow me 1 second, I'm going to show you what that is. I asked her to show me her certificate of analysis, which is this right here. Okay. And when she showed it to me, she said, oh, I bought whatever, XYZ product. When she showed me her certificate of analysis, it didn't match what she said she bought. In other words, she said she bought a powder, and the certificate they gave her said she bought an oil. I'm like, well, did you buy a powder? Did you buy an oil? Oh, well, this is what they said I bought. I said, but what did it look like? Oh, it looked like this. So her lack of knowing caused her to have misinformation on product. And unfortunately, that happens a lot. Certificates of analysis, like what you see here, are really important to have with products that you buy. And you can see here, this is something called crude. You would never have anything like this. I'm just pulling up a sample, but you see here that it says total cannabinoids, right? Is 75%. And then you see here, total CBD is 62.5%. So this is considered a crude. When it talks about other cannabinoids, I don't know if you can see this, but you see how down here, there's these other cannabinoids. It says cannabinoids here. Can you see that? Yes. So, yeah. So you see here how there's THC, this is the acidic form of THC. You see how there's delta 9? So delta 9 is what's considered the psychotropic part of the plant that gets you high, which you expect to see in crude, because crude is raw. So it's going to not have the delta 9 pulled out of it, extracted from it. But if you look here, you see how it has CBDA. This is the acidic form of CBD. And then you have CBD, and then you have all these other CBN, which is known to help with sleep, CBG, which I mentioned earlier, which is the like the stem cell of the plant. And then you have CBC and some of the other cannabinoids. But you want to always make sure that your product has a COA with it. It's a very interesting process to learn. I'm happy to keep teaching, anybody that wants to learn. It's sort of what I enjoy doing, so it's not an issue. I just really recommend that you do it with somebody that you trust and that knows, has real information. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't have information out there, that pretend that they do, even through the products that they sell. Some people have products out there that don't even have CBD in it. Amazon just people buy on Amazon, and Amazon just took down all of their CBD products for testing, and they realized that I think it was like 93% of the products were not what they said they were. So it might say I have 1,500 milligrams of oil in my bottle, and when they tested it, there was nothing in it, or there was 300 milligrams or whatever it was. So yeah, that's my advice: is work with somebody that you know and that you trust, and that can help you learn.
Thank you so much, Yasmine. We are at the end of the hour. I don't know if anybody has one last question. If there are no more questions, Yasmine, I want to thank you again for the time. This has been, I've learned so much. I hope everybody has learned as much as I did, and it was really eye-opening. thank you again from Flying High for Haiti for helping us and being part of this event. And I don't know if you have any last words for everyone.
No, I just thank you again for having me, and it's a blessing to be able to support anything that helps children. That's really where my heart is with kids. And any questions you all have, anything that you want to ask at any time, feel free to reach out to me. Flying High for Haiti, you have my information. Our store is my store is my clinic and store is in Miami Beach. You're welcome to come by anytime. Happy to serve you and happy to help you continue to grow and learn. And I hope that you find with this plant and with this medicine something that you don't find with everything else. And I hope that your journey takes you where it needs to take you.
Okay, thank you, Yasmine. Don't forget,
Thank you.
everybody, we have a class at 4 p.m. with Romina from Bake It Up. She's going to teach us how to make beautiful Easter cookies. So
Excellent.
goodbye, everybody, and I'll see you on the next Week of Wellness session.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.